Well, we are in for a treat today on another one of our guest episodes here on the Redeem for Time podcast. And you guys, it's just one of those things that when God drops someone in your lap and you don't always even know why, and then you say yes to doing a swap, and then you realize when you get on to record, there's a very specific purpose for the timing of it all. You just say, okay, God's got something here, and I know that's what's going to happen today. So I've got my friend Kristin Dronchi on today. Kristen, I want you to be able to introduce yourself to my audience. Tell us a little bit about you and what all are you juggling in this season of your life?
Yes, thank you, Lisa, for having me. I'm so grateful to connect again and add value. So, what am I juggling in this season of life? Oh, goodness. Well, besides my business, I am a stay-at-home mama. So, I work at home. I'm raising my little one. I'm my little warrior for the kingdom. I'm a wife and a stepmom. So, really trying to juggle all the things, really just to be present.
Mm.
And take care of myself because being an ex 9 to 5er, something
Mm.
that was ingrained in me for all of those years, and going to work, coming home, having that routine, it's been a challenge to put a routine together that works for everyone because my husband's also self-employed. So sometimes he's home. So being home all together 24/7, that's been a challenge, but it's been so rewarding as well. So that's what I'm juggling.
Yeah. Okay. I think so many people can relate. And what you said is so true. So many of us have been in a 9 to 5 or some kind of where there are, like systems around us. I was a teacher. So there was a bell that literally rang every 23 minutes that told me it was time to send them
Right.
out of my room and get the next group of kids because I taught middle school. And then all of a sudden you go into entrepreneurship, you go into business, you're in your house, and it's like you yourself and quote unquote all the time in the world. So it can be, yeah, definitely a challenge to figure out what
Yeah.
does this look like and how do I create some structure around it, what I call CEO schedules, but not so tight that, yeah, you feel like you can't breathe. So tell us a little bit more. You already kind of started alluding to the story, and I always like to hear the story, like how God took you from that 9 to 5 that you were doing to what you're doing now to help women, especially those who are busy mamas and are wanting to raise their kids well for the kingdom.
Yeah, so oh goodness, it probably started over 20 plus years ago. I was bit by the entrepreneurial bug in my network marketing company, and I realized there was more to life than just getting a college degree, getting a job that pays the bills. I did what society and my parents told me to do, get a good job, get a college degree, be a good member of society, and you'll be hunky dory. But that network marketing company opened my eyes to there's more to life than this. And I saw people making significant wealth and doing good with it and being not a quote unquote slave to the system. They were owning their own time and they were allowed to do the things that they wanted to do because they created that space through that network marketing company. And I was like, oh wow, this is new. So fast forward, I mean, I did pretty decent in that network marketing company. I was still at my 9 to 5. My goal was to eventually leave that 9 to 5. Through that network marketing company, though, they started doing promotions and things like that on the holidays. So I found when my family we had a seasonal campsite. So every Thursday through Sunday we went to that seasonal campsite in the summer, and I found that over the holidays the promotions were running. So I was, instead of enjoying time with my family on the sand dunes in Lake Michigan, I was in the trailer working and getting my team riled up so we could reach that next promotion. And that was probably close to 2 summers almost. And
Mm.
then finally, I'm like, I'm done. I'm getting burnt out. I'm getting overwhelmed. This isn't going anywhere, and I'm missing out time with my family. Hence, the stop being a slave to social media really started then and there. So, fast forward, when I hit kind of rock bottom, and I was like, Lord, there's got to be more than life than this. I feel like a robot. I'm working my 9 to 5. I'm losing my identity and being a wife, a stepmama. And that's when the Lord that Holy Spirit prompting was there, like preparing me for that shift. Like something else is coming. You're questioning this because you're not where God wants you to be. Because, now I know that being who God created you to be and doing what He's created you to do on this side of heaven, that's where the fulfilled life comes. So, fast forward, I came into this realization of the knowledge-based industry where people are actually extracting their gifts, their talents. I call it their God-given genius zone, and creating something around it so that they can help others, they can serve, make a massive impact, and stop being a slave to this worldly system. So I'm like, that's what I want to do. If I know there's other women out there just like me, then I want to help them. So I invested, I got to where I wanted to be, well, where I needed to be, and then I started helping others do what I did. So,
Wow, isn't it so fun
yeah,
how like it's often our journey of like us doing it either the wrong way or the systems way
right.
or whatever, having this aha moment, like this isn't what I want. This isn't leading
Right.
me towards what I really feel like God is calling me to. And then finally being able to like recognize there is another way. I don't have to do it the way that the world tells me to do it. I
Yeah.
can, yeah, do it and be successful in business and be successful as a mom, a wife, right? All these
Hmm.
other roles and things like that. So I love
Yeah.
that. I love that you're taking people on the journey. So let's dive into this because you talked about like not being a slave to social. And yet, as business owners, one of our key tasks is like building our audience and getting new leads. Like, let's be honest, that is something we need to
Mhm.
be doing. They're
Yeah.
not usually just knocking on our door because we have an amazing website. It would be
Right.
really nice if that was how things happen. Build it and they will come, right? It doesn't happen
Yes.
that way. So let's dive into this a little bit more. Like, why is building an audience, especially online, which is such a beautiful gift, and yet it becomes this problem, struggle, whatever, like for us, especially as Christian women who are trying to, juggle life and business. Like, let's dive into the problem a little bit there and why this is something we need to be having a conversation about.
Yeah. So when we're in the online space, online business, whatever it is, if you're a service provider, a course, a coach, whatever that is, we are taught, so many years ago, and it's still prevalent today, we're taught that we have to be present on social media and be posting in all of these groups and doing all of these things and being present, hoping and praying that that post added value. So our ideal client will go to our profile and grab that link and get on our email list. So that's kind of what we're taught to do, or create content after content and post it all over the place. And I found for me, when I was getting started, um, after I had my little one, and the Lord's like, yep, I want you to come home. This business is going to take off. Okay, great. And I was doing all those things on social media, posting, all of that stuff, what the gurus had said to do. And it was slow growth strategy. I even started a podcast. I love podcasting. I love those SEO strategies, but once again, it is a slow growth strategy. And I had just turned my resignation in after I had my little one. We were at the position where I could stay home, but we needed this business to take off. And I could start to see those monthly payments starting to dwindle the savings account down with my email service provider and all of those things and other bills. I'm like, Lord, you said you were going to provide. I need, something to happen, because I was launching to crickets. I was doing everything I was taught to do, but my email list was a slow growth email list. And I had 100 people on that didn't even want what I had to offer, because I was just told to create an email list or a freebie and get it out there. Not a strategic one that actually led people to that offer and helping them solve that problem. And then I started to see these virtual events and these speaking events. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. I want to be a speaker. So I just started participating in some. And I was like, this is good. I just grew my email list. I'm like, well, I don't like what they're doing. I think I can do it my way. And I want to do it my way for my people, the Christian women in the online space. So I hosted my own event in 2022. And that's when things just rapidly changed and shifted. Increased my email list over 1000%. And that led to one on one coaching sold out for the rest of the year that brought a huge cash injection in. The virtual event brought a huge cash injection in that we needed, and it just increased that momentum that I needed to keep moving forward. So I used the strategy because I was scared to launch. I was not seeing the results and the momentum in my business. And I was launching to crickets over and over and over again because my lead generation was slow. We need that lead generation to nurture to lead to that sale that can actually help our person. And when I did that, I realized, hey, there's something to this. There's something to this because collaboration strategies and locking arms with other kingdom minded women in the online space, we can help each other out and we can capitalize on the momentum that we need to get excited to see the results and keep moving forward, but the online business space and success needs as well. So yeah, that's really how everything got started because I was being, once again, a slave to social media. And I'm like, this is not working. There has to be another way to bring in an influx of warm, high quality people who want what I have to offer,
Mm.
but also adding value and serving and using kingdom principles to help others as well.
Wow. Wow. That is so powerful because I think so many of my listeners, myself included, back in the day, can relate to the post and pray method, right? And like
Mm-hmm.
you said, we were told to be on all these platforms. And so it was interesting because when you said this, I even wrote it this way. I said, taught to be, quote, present, right, on
Mm-hmm.
these platforms, right? We were told have a presence on Facebook, have a presence on Instagram, have a presence on LinkedIn, have a presence on wherever the other ones are. And yet as I look back, I'm like, but I wasn't really present on any of them because I was so busy posting and praying and jumping to the next one that I wasn't really there, like
Mm-hmm.
deeply engaging, really connecting, really getting to know people and building that audience.
Mm-hmm.
But we're told, yeah, be present,
Yeah.
who's right, and this is going to give us that. So yeah, yeah. And here's where I love that you talked about this. You're like, it was your lead gen was a slow growth. You know, one of the things that I teach CEOs to do is let's look at your time where
Mm-hmm.
you're investing it. And let's look at your ROTI, right? Your return on
Mm-hmm.
time invested. And that is one of the areas that, like, when CEOs actually look, or even just do the math of like, if on a good day the algorithm showed your stuff to 3% of your audience, how many
Right.
people would that even be? And you're like,
Right.
for real? Why am I,
Yeah.
like putting all this blood, sweat, and tears into creating these amazing posts that, I mean, they're just going to skim past it on the way your cat videos, let's be honest, right? So I love, yeah, how you talked about like, you were like, I want a better roadie, essentially, is what you were
Hmm.
saying
Yeah,
for the
definitely.
time. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we're really like not just great ideas, but like, how do we actually implement around here? So, how do we start letting go? And it's so interesting because this podcast is coming out right as we're doing a digital fast, where we're really paying attention to how much maybe we are a slave to our devices, to our screens, to, and social, I think, is one of the number one places. So maybe kind of walk us through like one, two, or three steps of just how do we go from where we are, which is going to be a whole bunch of different levels of slave to social, right? Or whatever it is that we're depending on to starting to move towards this like wow a much better way and better art roadie on in building our audience.
Yeah, so I think the first thing is having that mindset shift that social is just a tool in your toolbox. It's not the core driver for your business growth. It's
Mm,
just the tool. So the reason why, I mean, most of those successful, I mean, if you what successful or not, I mean, on the outside looking in, they look appear successful, that they're everywhere is either they hired a team or they know now that social is just a tool. So you get to create your long form content strategy, whatever that is, and then repurpose it all over the place. It's not that you're continually creating new content. You're taking a look at your framework, your signature offer, you're pulling pieces out of it on a monthly or bi-weekly or weekly basis, and then you just repurpose it and you're done, right? So clarify your goals. What does social media mean to you? What does getting off social media mean to you? And know that it's just a tool in your toolbox that you get to use. And then determine what is your core driver. What is going to be the core driver to find your people and get them on your email list? For me, that core driver is collaborations and my podcast. And then once you have that core driver of how you're getting people on your email list, then make sure that you have that strategy in place and map out that potential customer journey. What are you going to do with them once they find you? What does that look like? What is that strategic lead magnet that they're going to opt into, and what are those next steps? Make sure you know what that is with absolute clarity, those touch points that your specific person needs in order to nurture them. And then what is that home base where you're going to take them to? Is it just your email list where you're going to nurture them there and then have some nurture strategies where you're actually showing up and getting in front of them? Or, I mean, it's always going to be your email list. I mean, we need to have an email list because social media, you can lose it like I did right before a
Yeah,
launch.
recently I got an email from you saying my social media
Yes,
got hacked. I was like,
right. So I lost everything, all my 4,000 plus followers, my ads account, every single thing. So,
oh,
anyways, you definitely need your email list. But else is going to be that hub so you can get in front of them? Is it going to be a community off on Facebook or a community off social media? Because we're now in a day and age where people need to see you and have more touch points and increase that know, like, and trust factor so much more than it was a few years ago when you could just make a post on social media and say, hey, buy my thing. And that was converting, or Facebook ads that were converting into a paid offer. That doesn't happen anymore because we're in like my mentor says, a trust recession because people
mhm.
have overpromised, underdelivered. It takes more touch points and more time with you for your person to know they can trust you. And the most important belief and thing they need to know is if you are the person that they actually want helping you or
Mm,
helping them, because they can get help from anyone, but they want to know if they actually want to invest in with you, with your team, and have a long-term relationship. Because we're now more in that relationship marketing more than ever. So where's that hub going to be? And then map out what's the next step, where you're going to take them, and what's that offer going to be. And then just, yeah, take action. So those are the tangible steps that you can basically walk through. What are your
ah,
goals? What
okay.
does social media mean getting off that to you? Have that mindset shift that it's just a tool, and then map out that customer journey of where you're going to find them, that core driver, and where you're going to take them.
Yeah, find them, take them. Okay. I love this because it is what you are doing is you are helping us to think strategically as CEOs to say,
Mhm.
what real estate do I own? Because in your example, you don't own your social and it can be gone that fast. And if that was everything, then you have nothing and you're starting over from scratch. Um, and just like how this ties into the amount of time too. When I think about how much time back in the day, I followed a coach one time that told me, and again, this was back when this was, I think, working, but it really didn't even work that well for me. But we're supposed to post like 8 to 12 times a day on Facebook was what the recommendation was.
Yeah.
Like, sorry if you followed me way back in like 2014 or 15 when I was doing that, because
Well, everyone
I'm a
was doing
checkbox
that.
girl. Give me a
Right.
box and I will check it, right? But here's what I loved. I actually just did an episode a couple weeks ago about how to guarantee the best ROTI, return on time invested, or ROI, the money invested in anything that you do for your business. And then
Hmm.
first thing that I took people to was not how much money it is. It was not how much time it's going to require. It's who are you investing in? And so I love that you talked about that because that is so key. Like we've all probably invested in a program, a coach, a whatever course that either like the person, never really showed up and we just kind of had their team or just a screen
Hmm.
leading us through, or we realize like, yeah, I don't really want to have a business like them. Like they don't really align with my values and the things that I feel like God is calling me to. And so I love that you really talk about that trust factor because I think that is the first place because it could be a great price point and it could fit into your time. But if it's
Hmm.
not the right person, that's not who you want to learn from, then
Right.
you should be, yeah, looking on to the next opportunity. So
Right.
this is so good. Okay, so we've kind of alluded to this, but I want you to really kind of tie this together because I always like to kind of go, okay, we've identified the problem. you've given us the solution. So for those of us who thought that like social was all there was, and I just have to keep doing this and hoping one day it works, like how does this benefit us? Like how does starting to like really do this work of what is social media and then what is going to be my driver and then where am I driving them? How does this affect our time when we're sitting down to work in business, and how does it affect our return on time um, from that work we're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, I still find myself guilty doing this like busy work that doesn't really
Mm,
get us anywhere. But when we can take a look at, there's only really three things that your business needs, and anything else that you're doing can honestly just be not tossed away. It's the lead generation, nurture, and sales. I call it the
yeah,
three-point
yeah.
customer life cycle. That is it. So anything else can just be put aside, or maybe a virtual assistant or anything like that doing. But lead generation, nurture, and sales. What is your lead generation? What's your lead driver? What's bringing in the people? What are you and how are you nurturing them? And that can look different for anyone's business. And we already talked about you need to get in front of them face to face. And then what is your sales conversion event looking like? How are you actually bringing them into your world and inviting them to take that next step, getting behind that paid wall? What's that offer look like? So when you can sit down and you're working your business, you know along those 3-point customer life cycle, what one are you doing on that specific day?
Mm,
And for me, when I take a look at my lead generation strategies, it's either I'm going to, or I'm going to have my virtual assistant look for collaboration events I can participate in. So on a specific day, that's what I'm doing.
mm.
Or I'm going to have on my calendar the one that I'm hosting. And then that's where my time is going, besides the nurture and the sales, whatever it looks like on that specific day. And when I decide that I'm going to be hosting a collaboration event, that's where the majority of my time is. And I know what that return is going to be because I've hosted them in the past. I've helped my clients host them. So whatever strategy I decide to use, I already know in advance what that return is going to be. And the time that I'm putting in, I'm going to see that return either 3 or 4 months down the road,
Right.
or within that next week or month, depending on what strategy I'm using.
Yeah, I love that. We just came out of the It's Time Challenge where we talked about the laws of the harvest and
Mhm.
that there is time between the sowing and the reaping. But there
Yes.
also is this idea that we reap more than we sow because no farmer would do all the work to put one seed in the ground and get one thing back, for that, right? They would be like, this is not worth my time. I put in one little kernel of corn and I get one ear of corn. So anyway, this whole idea of like what I call the hundredfold harvest that only God can bring. And it's all over scripture where he talks about that. Like it's well beyond what we think we can do on our own. And we actually did the math on that when we were on the challenge. And a hundredfold harvest is 10,000% increase. And so even when you said like 1,000% increase on your email, I'm like, girl, that is, yeah, those are the kind of numbers we want to see. And it takes just getting strategic and really thinking about yeah, what is working, what's not, where is my time going, where is it producing fruit, where is it not, and then how can I think differently and strategically, as that. So, what one piece of advice or encouragement would you give to someone who right now, maybe she is still a slave to social, maybe she is still feeling this like, but I have to, or, like I just can't let this go, or, make this the what I call the afterthought is how I see social. It's like my afterthought. Like you said, I have my main lead stuff is my podcast and my email list, and social is an afterthought. So, like that person who's like, oh, I don't want to let go of this yet, what would you say to her?
Oh my goodness. I would say to her that don't worry, you're not alone,
Mm,
because even I still have days where it's in my hand and I just want to go scroll. And when you find yourself feeling like that or doing that, give yourself a mindset check. Why are you doing that?
mm,
And realize it's probably gonna take some time, because we were taught, we were ingrained that be,
mm.
but we don't have to. There are plenty of other people who are not using social to grow their email list. And I'd have to ask yourself a question. Is it working? Is it working? Are you seeing those 10, 15, 20, 100 plus leads coming in a week? And if it's not, then realize that that's not working. You can set that aside and it's just a tool where you get to nurture. I think of social as a place I nurture the people
Hmm.
that want to find me, not where I'm finding those leads. And grab yourself an accountability buddy because um I call it with my clients break up with social party because
Ah,
think about that time when it was difficult to get rid of that clingy bad boyfriend that just went go away, right? You would have to enlist your best friend to help you or to do something to like say, hey, she's not interested in you. Same thing with social media. Have a breakup party, do it with an accountability buddy.
I love that. And that's why we have the Redeem for Time community, which actually, according to what you said earlier, is on par because you talked about building a community off of social. So I have intentionally chosen to go off of social and build it in a place where it's not noisy, it's not crowded. You're not like, okay, let's be honest. How many of us are a member of like 283 Facebook groups, right? Either we never visit because we forget that we're a member of them, or we have an intention to visit it, but then we get like lost in scroll hole on the way there. Or
Yeah.
like it just is one of those ones where it's like you get put in timeout because you maybe kind of sort of alluded to the fact that you sell something and it wasn't on sales Saturday only. And so then, you're like in timeout or whatever. So I
Right.
always say like permission and direction inside my community to talk about your business any day of the week. Like if God has called you to it, you should be talking about it in a way
Yes.
that's serving, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, and
I
and
love it.
yeah, we're doing it where it's not noisy. So I'll invite everybody over there in just a minute. But first, I want to make sure they know where is the best place to connect with you, and what resources or do you have that would be a great place to get started if somebody's like, I want to hear a little bit more, kind of start getting to know what you teach, Kristen.
Yeah, so you can find me anywhere on social media by my name, Kristin Dronchi. Please know that you're not going to see me showing up there, but you will see me repurposing and adding value with directing you to my email list or my podcast. So know that. And then there'll also be a link I'm sure Lissa will put in the show notes where you can tune into my private podcast, Grow Without the Scroll, where you can actually get more in-depth strategies of actually what we talked about today. You'll have my 7-step process of how you can actually ditch social media, have an anti-social media growth strategy.
I love it. Yes. And I love the fact first, I love the title, Grow Without the Scroll. And I like the fact that it's private. So it's like something that's like, hey, this is for people who are really serious about this
Mhm.
and really want to do the work. So, yes, we will put that link in the show notes. So, listeners, make sure that you go and grab that. And right now, I want you to think of another business bestie or two that you know is a slave to social, right? Because you are too. We all know, right? Because we're talking about like how much time we're spending and how nobody's responding and how, why do I keep doing this? Or I'm always taking pictures of everything in life and, try and posting it to try to make people notice me or whatever. So who is that person in your life that you're like, hey, girl, let's do this breakup with social party together and yeah, share this episode with her and let's go through that. So I'm excited about this to put this in here. And like I said, we are going to continue the conversation over inside the Redeem Her Time community, where it's not noisy and it's off social, and we can have real, honest conversations with other like-hearted women who are building businesses for the kingdom, as well as being the other roles that God has called us to. And I always invite my guests to come in there as well, so you guys can ask more questions and get to know her. So make sure you come over to the community, redeemhertime.com/community. And yeah, we talk about time and ROTI and life and faith and business and how we can pray for each other. It's just a really fun place where we're being intentional. So I will make sure that that link is also in the show notes so that everyone can join us. And Kristen, thank you so much. Like you've just re-inspired me to like not go back to social ever again and just to remember the place it has and yet, yeah, not let it be what takes over like it did back in the day with my time and my heart. So thank you for that and for sharing your expertise and your journey and all of that. As I end, I always like to kind of ask this question just to get into your heart a little bit. As you're looking at this season, right? Where are you wanting to invest time in this season? And what's what I call your roadie why? Like, why does that matter?
Ah, wow. Great end of podcast questions. First off, Lisa, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it adding value. And what do I want to focus on this season and why? That return on investment. So, personally, for me, this season, I want to focus on being more present with my husband and little one at home. It just seems that even though I'm home 24/7, that I'm not actually being present with them. And I know that return on investment is going to have a little one that is growing more in the Lord and in his faith with Jesus. And yeah, that's what I want
I
to be
love that.
focused on.
Yeah. And they don't stay little, which is a good thing. That's fun in every season. But yeah, you don't want to wake up one day and be like, where did time go? And how did
Mm-hmm.
this happen? How did I get here? So that's a beautiful thing. And I love the fact that you're wanting to make time for that and that what you do and what you teach people to do is so much a piece of that. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for being with us today. I look forward to all of us hanging out inside the Redeem Her Time community. So as soon as you're done listening to this, share it with that business bestie and then go hop on over to the Redeem Her Time community. And we're going to actually have a breaking up a social party over there. So come join us and yeah, and get connected with other women who are also wanting to serve the Lord, but not be a slave to something like social. So thanks so much, Kristin.
Yeah, you're welcome.